Hi guys, welcome to episode 2 of Oxbridge Study Secrets. For the next few episodes, we're going to be focusing on a topic that so many of you have asked me about on Instagram. A definitive guide to creating revision notes to help us get the best exam grades that we can. We're going to talk about when revision notes are a good method to use, whether to type or write our revision notes, and then in future videos I'll even show you examples of my own notes that I made when I was at Cambridge University doing engineering. I'll run you through my technique for making notes, and more importantly, how to review them to really ingrain the content into your memory. Because, and this is a key point, making our notes doesn't matter as much as the methods we use to review them and how often we review them. But for this video, let me just start with a question. Why are you making revision notes? I mean, the answer seems obvious, right? To get good exam grades. But it isn't that simple. Because let's be honest, for so many of us, making revision notes can be a boring and time-consuming process. Most of us don't really know how to make effective revision notes, and so what happens is we end up getting less out of them relative to the amount of time and effort that we put into making them. I mean, there are so many other study tools like past papers, cue cards, and self-testing that, depending on the subject and our own personal learning preferences, may actually be more helpful than making notes. And we're definitely going to get to these in future videos. But for now, here are 3 reasons which a lot of us use to justify why we're making revision notes, but which don't actually help us when it comes to exams. Now, these reasons are more psychological than they are related to the academic subject we're studying, but I think that it's so important to stay aware of them and to catch ourselves if we find ourselves making notes for these wrong reasons. So the first reason is guilt. A lot of us make revision notes because we just feel pressure to study, and we think that putting in lots of hours is the key to alleviating that guilt or feeling of inadequacy that we sometimes feel about not studying enough. Well, nothing takes longer to make than notes, right? So it must be productive, right? Well, unfortunately, notes may not be the most effective method for a particular subject, or we might not just be making those notes in an effective way. The second reason, the second wrong reason, is following the crowd. Some of us just see others making revision notes, and because we don't have any better ideas about how to study, or we haven't learned about how to create an effective revision strategy, we just do the same. But then we're not tailoring our notes to be optimal for our learning. We're basically just making notes for the sake of making notes. And similar to the point about guilt from before, just feeling like we've done something towards our exams, when it might have barely helped at all. A really common example of this is when we see other people making notes, so we just think, let's get started. And we start to just copy out of the textbook. Now, when we just copy out of the textbook while our mind is elsewhere entirely, it doesn't help at all, because note making is an active process, not a passive one. We've got to really engage with the content that we're writing, not just put in hours of mindless copying. The third reason, and this is a rogue one, is creative expression to alleviate the monotony of making revision notes. Guys, let's be real. The truth is that making revision notes can be really boring, and so some of us actually start to use revision notes as a form of creative expression. Now, don't get me wrong, I love seeing examples of beautifully constructed revision notes, you know, the colours, the calligraphy and the highlight pens. But if you're spending half an hour for each page of notes, it might not be the most efficient way to study. I mean, if you plan meticulously and have the time to do this for every topic, of every module, of every subject, for every exam, then by all means, go for it. But many of us just don't have that time, or we don't want to spend that amount of time on revision notes. I really do think it's so important to take pride in our revision notes and to do them mindfully, fully focused on engaging with the content. But at the same time, we don't want to go overboard. I mean, the worst thing is when we spend so much time making these beautiful, pristine revision notes for 3 months before exams, and then realise that we're only halfway through the content just the week before exams. So we've got to find the balance between enjoying the process of making notes that we engage with, that we feel proud of and we even use as a creative outlet, but also feel that making these notes is an effective form of revision as part of a long-term study plan tailored to our own individual needs. Because when done with good planning and a long-term strategy, making revision notes can be an incredibly powerful studying tool, especially for those content-heavy subjects that require us to memorize a lot of information. Biology, chemistry, physics, geography, business studies, economics, these immediately come to mind. We can also use notes and timelines for learning dates and key facts in history, or writing specific analysis points of written pieces in English, or writing formulae in specific steps to solve maths problems, or learning vocabulary and verb endings for languages. Because making notes is not actually subject dependent. The act of writing down notes is useful for any subject. But how we present that information will differ, and the extent to which it's the most effective form of study will also differ. An example is that most of you will have experienced that for maths, you can make some notes to memorize formulae or to ingrain the steps to follow to solve certain problems. But past papers and questions are much more useful to spend time on. Same with essay-based subjects, where there's just no substitute for writing practice essays or creating essay plans. Anyway, guys, I really hope this video has just made you rethink the reasons behind why you're making revision notes, and showed you examples of when you might be making these notes for the wrong reasons. In the next videos, we'll cover whether written notes or typed notes are better, and then I'll show you examples of my own handwritten and typed notes from my Cambridge engineering degree, and tell you the methods that I used to review them, to learn from them, and to commit them to memory. That's it for now, guys. Keep growing, keep striving, and keep shining.